some very questionable commentary, a much more marketable women's champion, and a very anticlimactic main event? Or was it because we were actually able to gain quite a few insights before things went sour in the Aspinall Gane fight? We'll get into all of that. Before we do, patreon.com/boringbreakdowns. You guys can get access to all of the long form work. I will actually be putting out some video studies on the more interesting moments from last night's event, probably this week on the Patreon. So again, patreon.com/boring breakdowns. It will be linked below. That's the best way that you guys can support the work. But if you guys can't, all good. Liking, sharing, subscribing, all of that is a huge help, and it is much appreciated. So let's go ahead and jump in. Aspinall was being marketed as that next guy, the next John Jones, the next Connor, Izzy, Poatan, etc. And it's not that hype train was derailed completely because we wound up having an unfortunate no contest. However, Gane did show us a lot of really good work that was able to shut Aspinall down. And a lot of this good work is boring, fundamental things that you might have heard repeated over and over again, but they wound up playing a huge factor in keeping Gane out of trouble, shutting down much of Aspinall's work, and taxing him a good bit as well. Now, the first one is Gane's use of the jab to the body. Now, he's played this in previous fights, and there was a couple of things that it did. So when Aspinall is going to set work up, sometimes he will kind of level change, he'll feint a level change, or he'll use a distance feint. And I call a distance feint when you step in and immediately step out. So it makes the opponent think you are going to step in and actually initiate offense, and will generally get the opponent reacting. And instead of you actually going for that offense, you're just going to step back out. So the purpose of this is to never quite let the opponent know, hey, do you think I'm stepping in to hit you, or am I just stepping in and immediately stepping out? And usually it gets some pretty big reactions, such that when you do go in to fire on the opponent, there's a higher chance of being able to clip. Now, Aspinall was playing distance feints. He was playing little level change glove jab feints, and Gane does an excellent job reacting to them. Now, how does he react? If you guys watch the pre-fight analysis on the Patreon, we talked about one of his defensive patterns that could have potentially gotten him into trouble, which is the tall man lean back to dang near everything. Now, when you're always leaning back, it's easy to kind of take advantage of that position. Again, I go into more detail on that in the pre-fight analysis. But we didn't see that off the bat from Gane. We saw Gane very diligent when he is in the shooting gallery, when he is in range to get clipped by Aspinall. When Aspinall throws these distance feints, these glove feints, instead of Gane leaning back heavily and then having to recover his feet back underneath him, Gane did an excellent job simply darting back. And as he darted, his head was still able to stay over top of his hips. We don't see too much overextension of the arms or heavy lean back with that head. And he's able to simply make distance. So the distancing was excellent work. Now, the jab to the body, and Gane has played that jab to the body in previous fights. Now, what was so nice about this one is, and clearly Gane and his corner have done their homework, one of the defensive patterns of Aspinall is to lean back as well, albeit in a different way. Again, pre-fight analysis on Patreon will break that down a little bit more. If you're going to jab someone to the head who tends to lean back, you have a chance of missing that target. But the jab to the body is going to be a much higher percentage target, because as easy it is to move the head, it's much more difficult to move the body with it. So Gane's jab to the body was great at disrupting these feints from Aspinall, and then also you're going at center mass, and so you have a higher chance of clipping. And even if you're not clipping in order to hurt the guy, it's clipping to disrupt him and make Aspinall reset. So that was an excellent tool for disrupting, but it was also a great tool at creating distance between the two athletes. So it doesn't allow Tom to take advantage of those fast twitch muscles and explode forward, and it allows Gane to gain a little bit more space between him and Aspinall, so there's a less chance of those explosive attacks hitting. Gane also does a great job using that John Jones knee stomp to discourage that forward motion of Aspinall. The next thing Gane does a great job of is circling outside of Aspinall's lead leg. And now this is something people talk about a lot, open stance, circle to the outside. Now, we saw from Rakic and Mirzakhanov, you certainly don't have to circle to the outside. You don't need to have outside foot positioning, but Gane does a great job here. Why is it situationally advantageous for Gane to circle and keep his foot on the outside against a very fast-moving forward blitzer? If you are able to cut that angle and outflank that forward blitzer, he now has to reset again before he can blitz forward. Now, this is going to take away a lot of the advantage of Aspinall's fast forward bursts because he's always going to be basically left alone while Gane has taken that angle around him. Now, the couple of times that Aspinall did try to go in, Gane also had that jab waiting for him. Now, the jab was able to clip Aspinall because he tends to have his head on the line when he is firing offense. Now, this is dangerous, especially when you're moving forward, because you can essentially move yourself right into your opponent's work. And Gane did a great job as Aspinall was firing in. Gane already had that outside foot positioning, and on his way to circling out, Gane essentially threw that parting shot jab, which clipped Aspinall and interrupted that offense. Now, Aspinall did some cool things too. In response to that circling, Gane being a southpaw, he circled towards his right, outside of Aspinall's lead leg. Aspinall threw the spin side kick, and now that spin side kick was an excellent answer because Gane is essentially circling into it. And there was one, I believe it was the first spin side kick. The second one, I think it was just kind of he showed a spin, but the first spin side kick looked like to be a pretty clean land right on the liver of Gane. Again, sure would have been nice to see that fight play out a little bit more, and see if Tom could have made more work out of that. Now, what would have happened? Who knows? But again, that jab, especially right before the eye poke, the jab clipped Tom really, really clean and off-balanced him. Who knows? It looked like he could have been rocked. Only Tom would know that. But the point is, Gane had been clearly had planned for that and had been landing it. So who knows where this fight could have gone? Comment below if you guys think Gane could have taken this one. Next, we have Mackenzie and Virna. Now, this was probably one of my favorite fights just because Mackenzie is probably one of the best at incorporating the striking on the ground, and she did such an excellent job of it. If you guys are on the Instagram is Boring Breakdowns, or TikTok, I shared a reel of Mackenzie using the tech stand-up, which is something that BJJ students get taught on their free trial class when they're joining a gym. And Mackenzie is able to hit this tech stand-up. How? By creating space via punches. And this is so important because you contrast this type of style to a Jailton Almeida versus Volkov earlier in the evening, or like a Damian Maia type style. And they basically just make it a pure jiu-jitsu match. We could probably count on our two hands how many strikes throughout the entirety of the fight Jailton Almeida threw on the ground. And while there's plenty of technique in that type of style, it's just boring for the casual fan to watch. And so, you can understand how, from a marketing perspective, Mackenzie is significantly more exciting in that. But what we really should talk about is Mackenzie is doing her due diligence on the feet. We saw some really cool, again, I'm not calling Mackenzie the GOAT on the feet and things like that, but we saw some really good work from Mackenzie in the striking department. We saw some shoulder rolls from Mackenzie versus Virna, and now Virna, for the most part, is a 1-2 fighter. She has some other things here and there. We saw a little bit more low kicking in this fight and some other stuff, but for the most part, she's going to throw a 1-2, she's going to throw a 1, or she's going to throw a 2. That's the majority of Virna's work. Now, Mackenzie, and shouts to Coach Jason Perillo, they planned for this beautifully. We saw a Conor McGregor type of glove touch with her rear hand, and this was beautiful because those of you guys who watched Conor, especially earlier on, I believe he did this to Eddie Alvarez. Who else? I'm sure plenty of other guys. Conor would be in southpaw. He would rotate his gut and reach with his rear hand, his left hand, to touch the opponent's right rear glove. Now, why would he do this? This is a good way to shut down offense from that side. And Mackenzie did a great job. Now, Mackenzie and Virna are both conventional stance, left foot forward athletes. What Mackenzie would do is she would rotate her gut so it is more or less neutraled up with Virna. She'd use her rear hand, her right hand, to touch Virna's jab. Not only does this shut down Virna's jab, but it is going to give Virna a false sense of where Mackenzie is. It appears that Mackenzie is further forward and closer to Virna. So when Virna throws that right hand, she thinks she can reach her, but because Mackenzie has rotated and kind of leaned her head forward a little bit, it's easy for Mackenzie to pull her head back and come back to a more bladed position, which is going to make Virna miss on these shots. Offensively, there's an amazing option, which is using that rear glove touch and rotating back to a bladed position as you step in for a jab. Because you're in this neutral position and you're able to dip your head so close towards the opponent, when you step in and blade off, you're essentially, you're corkscrewing your body into your jab, which puts a lot of strength behind your jab. But when you step in, given that your opponent had this false sense of range, you can really get a good bit of distance and clip your opponent with that jab. Excellent work from Mackenzie, and again, she's really is becoming a student of the striking game, which I love to see. She also did a great job getting her head heavily dipped to her left, which is going to be which put her outside of Virna's rear straight. And when she dipped her head outside of Virna's straight, she would oftentimes throw her own right hand. Sometimes it would kind of would be a little bit more of a looping right hand, and she was able to corkscrew that and really clip Virna on that counter. So the boxing is really cleaning up from Mackenzie. Again, she's still has some holes. She tends to do some of the running in, like that sprint boxing that you saw from like a Carlos Condit back in the day. And that sprint boxing is, I think, I don't know if he was referring specifically to this, but between the rounds, Coach Jason Perillo said, just touch. You can score points. You don't have to try to take her head off. And oftentimes you see with this sprint boxing, it's because people want to take their opponent's heads off, and that usually puts them out of position, and there's really nowhere to go but forward when you're trying to sprint and touch the opponent. So sitting behind that lead shoulder, which was for the most part what Mackenzie was able to do, and working that jab was an excellent strategy, and was clearly enough to shut down much of what Virna had to offer. Next, we had Mackenzie using that jab to interrupt the 1-2. So again, Virna, pretty predictable stand-up work. If you have an opponent in front of you throwing the 1-2, it's not required that you need to also commit your shoulder, your rear shoulder, and rotate your gut to counter. So a simple jab being thrown in between that 1-2 can catch your opponent as she is rotating and neutraling up her gut in order to throw her rear hand. And Mackenzie did a very good job simply parrying Virna's jab and then throwing a jab of her own, which would catch Virna in that neutral gut position as she was about to let her rear hand fly. Plenty of good stuff on the ground here. I really wanted to address some of the improvement on the feet, but we saw. Did I talk about the shoulder roll? If I didn't, Mackenzie used a couple really clean shoulder rolls, which is something that is is a great option. That it's not just for boxing. Shoulder rolls are a great option, especially when there's 4-ounce gloves. It takes away, so long as you can time that shoulder appropriately, it takes away any sort of impact that you'd have to deal with, as opposed to like having to high guard and try to catch that shot on the back of your glove or the back of your forearm. There's so much more possibility that that shot could wrap around or go to the inside of your high guard. So great shoulder rolling as well. We saw some cool jiu-jitsu. The one thing I will talk about on the ground is we saw Mackenzie go for a lasso, and those of you guys who don't play the gi, a lasso is when someone is in your guard and you grab their wrist or their sleeve, usually it's the sleeve with the gi, and you essentially use your same side leg of that sleeve grip, and you wrap it from the outside, and you essentially put the shoelaces of your foot underneath their armpit. And this is a pretty predominantly gi position. You see this position in some no-gi. I think Mikey Musumisa uses it. A couple of his students, Danny Myra, Nick Salas, they use it as well in no-gi. But predominantly it is a gi position. Mackenzie uses this and transitions from the lasso to both feet on Virna's chest and is able to kick Virna away, and Mackenzie's able to immediately stand back up, which was one of the ground elements that really stood out. I'll be possibly talking a bit more about her groundwork on the Patreon. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts. Comment down below. Who do you think is going to be winning? I'm assuming there's going to be a rematch in Gane versus Aspinall. I mean, there kind of has to be, right? And also, that poor guy got screwed out of a title shot for dang near a year or over a year, and he comes back, and this is what happens on his comeback. So much love to Tom Aspinall. That sucks. But how do you guys think Aspinall Gone 2 would go? Comment down below, and I will catch up with you guys on the next one. Again, patreon.com/boring breakdowns if you guys would like to peep the video studies that I will be putting out from UFC 321. It's also the best way to support the work. There's free options too. There's free memberships as well if you guys cannot go with any of the other memberships. Also, please, if you guys enjoyed this work, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to the channels if you guys have not already done so. Thanks so much, y'all. I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.